There we go. Yes, because that's what I always forget. And Jeff inevitably will jump in. Our professional development coordinator, Jeff Culver, always jumps in and says, "Hey, you forgot to hit record," or he'll just do it for me. So thank you, Jeff. And then our presenter this evening, Tim Torres, he joins us from FranklinCovey. Tim, quick question before we get started. With Zoom events, every event's a little bit different. Cameras on, cameras off. What's your preference in terms of like seeing faces, or how do you feel about that, Tim?
I always love to see faces, but I want you to feel comfortable. So there's some times where I just do not want, we're doing things. So if I could see at least one person, then it might just be me and you, Ron. Unless Gretchen's going to be dancing, then I'm totally game with that. So if you're dancing, you got to put the camera on. Otherwise, you do what works for you.
That sounds great. And of course, if you are just arriving home and you're just like trying to eat dinner and you don't want to, eat dinner in front of everybody, you're welcome to turn your camera off, of course. But always great to see faces whenever we do these Zoom events like this, and even better to see faces when we're going to be back in person, Janelle, for Cata Tours in Reno at the beginning of March. So Janelle, I know I didn't mention this to you in advance, but if you want at the very end, if you just want to give a little plug at the very end, just as we're leaving, then the floor will be yours at 8:30. Okay, with no further ado, Tim Torres comes to us from FranklinCovey. Tim, originally you and I had communicated, and I was like, "Hey, we want to do this topic," and you're like, and Tim was so gracious, and he's like, "I will absolutely do that for you, Ron, whatever you want." However, we do have this presentation that might even be more fitting, and Tim described it to me, and he's like, "Leadership through crisis, change, and emerging stronger." And I'm like, that sounds like exactly what our schools could use right now. So with no further ado, please welcome Tim Torres.
Love it. And now I have to be on my best behavior because we're being recorded. So anyways, I'm very happy to be here with you, and thank you for having me. And I just want to say that I commend you for your leadership during this time and for your passion. And more than ever, our kids need your leadership, and they need you. And that's why I wanted to do this for you, was to give my goal and my end in mind is to give you peace and to give you tools to help you keep moving forward, but not like moving forward like we're on survival mode, but that we're on thrival mode. Does that make sense? And so I'm going to throw that out there, and we're going to see where we go tonight. So I'm going to share my screen real quick, and I want to just kind of start off, and I'd like to share a video. And in just a second, I got to make sure I shared everything. I'm a real good multitasker, not really. And make sure it's all good, because I like to see. There we go. Now, if things start slowing down for you, I guess the trick on Zoom is that if that's where you're fine with pausing your video or putting your video off, so you're getting the back and forth, but you do what works for you. This is just a video for us to breathe. Oh, by the way, it's a read video. Okay, I want to make sure I tell you that, because there have been times for me where it's a read video and I'm like distracted, because that's just how my neurodiverse brain works. And then all of a sudden I look at it and then there's words. I'm like, dang it, I missed everything. And then I'm like not knowing what the heck is going on. So just so that you know. like to, if we could, um, uh, maybe in the chat room, and think about we've all had people in our lives at different times, at the right time of our life, that saw worth and potential in us when maybe we didn't see it in ourselves. And so I'm wondering if we could use the chat room to maybe honor that person who saw worth and potential in you, um, when maybe you didn't see it in yourself. And let's use the chat to honor that person. Ooh, Chantel, love it. Thank you for being real. Tell you the reason why I became a teacher, or an educator, was because I got to go through most of those adverse childhood experiences growing up in my childhood and adolescence. Um, but the one place that I always knew that I could feel that unconditional love was at school. And I had the right teachers at the right moment, at the right time, tell me the right things that helped me to continue, and to move forward, and to start believing in myself. And so for me, and you'll hear it more than one time, I 100% believe that your potential isn't just to change lives, but your potential is to save lives across generations. And right now I have a life that I never knew I would have. And it's crossing a generation now, because of my teachers. So I just want to make sure that you don't forget, in this chaos, your great worth and your great potential. And so to do that, we're going to play a little bit to understand, okay, what's happening with our bodies, what's happening with how are we handling the change, and what are those steps within the change cycle, so that we know, oh, this is where I'm at. Okay. And this is what I need to do to get to that next place. And at the same time, I can look at my students that I work with, and my colleagues, and say, oh, that's where they're at. That's why they're feeling this way. This is what I can do to help them get through it. So to start off, I like to just do a brief kind of overview of the 7 habits of highly effective people. This is what we call the maturity continuum. And so just to give it, to make it so that this will be I guess a summary here. So for example, habit 1 is be proactive. And it's the foundational habit. And habit 1 says, okay, I can't control what happens to me, but I can control my attitude. I can control my actions, and I can control my language. And I can focus on those things within my control, and use those and to be able to influence my situation and make choices. And so now that I know that I'm in charge of my actions, my attitude, and my language, I'm going to go to, well, what am I going to do with this life that I have, this power and responsibility that I have? And I'll go to habit 2. It's begin with the end in mind. And begin with the end in mind is, hey, when I start something, for example, when I start the day, I don't go, I hope today's going to be a good day. That's not going to work. I'm not going to let chance hit. I'm going to say, you know what do I want? Hey, Tim, what do I want today? I want a good day. Okay, Tim, well, what's a good day look like to you, Tim? Looks like I got up, I did my running, and I was able to connect with my children. I was able to connect with my wife. I was able to inspire those that I connect with. I was able to have time to myself. Do you see where what I'm creating now? So that's the good day. Okay, that's my end in mind now. Okay, Tim, what are you going to do to make sure you get that? And how are you going to use your actions, your attitude, and your language to create that good day that you want to create? Now, I'm saying that as a day, it could be, I want a good school year. It could be, I want a good relationship, right? It could be, you could put a lot of things in that. What's the end in mind? I'm going to have a parent meeting. What's the result that I want? I hope I have a good parent meeting. I'm going to have a good parent meeting. Well, what would a good parent meeting look like? It looked like we're connected. It looked like we're on the same team. It would look like, it would sound like, it would feel like. Do you see where we're going with this? So begin with the end in mind. And so once I know what I want to get, then I go to habit 3. I put first things first. If I want to make a connection with my kids today, then I have to make sure that I put them and I make them a priority. And it's not just a secondhand, I hope I get to that. And so I'm going to prioritize the things that I do to make sure that I get the results that I want. And this is called the private victory. And once I have that private victory, then that's what we call independence. And that'd be fine. I can stop right there if I was the only person living on this planet Earth, but I'm not. And neither are you, by the way. And so we got to get to interpersonal skills, what we call the public victory. And so habit 4 is think win-win. And think win-win is really, it's when I'm making a decision, I'm not just thinking about what would be good for me, what would be good for everyone that's involved. And would they see it as a win as well? I'm going to treat them the way I want to be treated, or even better, I'm going to treat them the way they want to be treated. Think win-win. And then habit 5 is seek first to understand, then to be understood. And so that's where I'm empathically listening. I'm listening to the person, not with my story, but to understand and learn their story. Say, oh, so you feel this way. Say more about that. They're giving me a glimpse into the way they see the world, and I am going to take that in. It's not about whether I agree or disagree. It's just being able to see how they perceive the world so that I can understand them and they can feel understood. And once we do that, then we get to habit 6, which is synergize. And synergize is where we're not competing with each other, but we're working together. It's cooperative creativity. And we work together to come up with something even better than we would have come up with before. I would never have come up with that solution by myself. You would not have come up with that solution by yourself, but together we come up with something that was just amazing. And so after habit 6, then you'll notice that what surrounds all habits is habit 7, that's sharpen the saw. And sharpen the saw is just taking care of your heart, mind, body, and spirit. Heart, your relationships. Mind is reflection and learning. Body is making sure that you're healthy. And spirit is making sure that you feel like that you're making that contribution that you're meant to make. And so this is like the 7 habits of highly effective people. And I'm showing you this because I also want to show you the opposite, because I do really well with non-examples. So this would be the opposite. If I'm not taking care of my heart, mind, body, spirit, then I'm going to feel burned out, right? 90% of the time that you're feeling burned out, I bet you can go back and you could say, you can see where you're not taking care of your heart, your mind, your body, and or your spirit, or all of the above if you're me. Like I said, I don't walk on water, I splash in puddles. But when you're burned out, what happens is now you're not being proactive, you're the victim. And you're focusing on things, and you're hyper focusing on things that you have no control over. Oh my gosh, it's COVID. Oh my gosh, another variant. What are we gonna do with the variant? Oh, there's another variant. We gotta do the variant. Got my mask. Did the mask? Did the mask? And I can focus on things that I have no control over, and I will lose sleep. And so I'm feeling like the victim. My language will be the victim. Oh, now I have to. Got to go to this now. I become and feel like this victim. And because I'm feeling like a victim, because I'm just burned out, I don't begin with anything in mind. I begin with nothing in mind. I just hope I survive. through this day. And because I'm hoping I survive through this day, I'm not putting first things first. I'm just putting anything first. And I'm just doing it and putting urgent things first, whatever the biggest fire or the thing that screams the loudest, I'm going to go do that. Or I don't even know what I'm doing. And then because I'm burned out when I'm interacting with other people, I don't give a rip about your win. It's my win. I don't care what you want. It's what I want. Just do what you're told. All right. And quit making noise and try to make problems by coming up with some different idea. And instead of seek first to be understood, then to seek first to understand, I'm going to seek first to be understood and then to be understood again. Just in case you didn't hear me the first time, you need neon lights. Just do what I tell you to do. All right. And quit making problems again. Now, if you happen to slide something past an idea that's different than mine, then we don't got time for that. So I'm going to minimize your idea. I'm going to minimize you. I mean, where did you even go to school? I mean, do you even like kids? Because apparently you want everything to be horrible. I'm going to minimize you and your idea. And then because that's what I'm doing, it takes me right back to burnout. And if I'm not conscious, I'm going to just keep spinning around this cycle without even knowing what's going on. Saying, oh, what happened? I used to want to be a teacher. I used to, oh, what's wrong? And we'll find it's not just one area of our life is going to be wrong. All areas of our life are going to feel like they're falling apart. And I tell you this because it all starts off with a habit 7, sharpen the saw. However well we take care of our heart, mind, body, and spirit is how well we can take care of our habit 1, 2, 3. And that's self-regulation and aren't taking care of ourselves, and 4, 5, and 6. So, but the problem is with the change model, and I want to show you, there's 4 areas that change. You have status quo, and that's like where everything's predictable, right? And then you've got the zone of disruption. Something unpredictable happens. We get placed in the zone of disruption. And from that zone of disruption, we've got to figure out what we're going to do to adjust. And then we're in that zone of adoption. And from there, the hope is we can make that adjustment, and then we get into the zone of innovation. Now, we deal with this every day. There's something that you expect is going to be there, and it's not. I thought the pen was going to work, and I go to write, and it ran out. And so then, but is that disruption a huge disruption? Probably not for me. It's just a little blip, right? And I just like, okay, change my throw that pin away. I got to go grab another pin. And now I just got through that cycle. Does that make sense? However, when it's crisis change, I like to use this picture. We feel a little bit different, right? And these are my 4 oldest kids. Maybe 3 years ago, their first time on a roller coaster. Mind you, for those of you that live near Santa Cruz, this is like the baby dragon ride at Santa Cruz. And this is where I realized my kids are sheltered. But their faces are perfect for how it feels sometimes when we are in we're placed in this crisis. Right? Just when we think things are good, all of a sudden there's another variant and nobody knows what's going on. And so that's, we can feel that way. And so once what will happen is we get in the zone of disruption, and what they find is that learned, they call it learned helplessness, and it really isn't learned, it's actually default. When you're thrown into a disruption and it's a crisis disruption, your default state is to actually put yourself into this burnout, into emergency mode. Does that make sense? And so the default you'll find is you'll go boom, straight to burnout. And if you're not careful, this is what the cycle will start going if we're not conscious about it. And when that happens, then we become very reactive. Instead of thinking before we respond, I'm saying things I know I should not be saying. I have that what I call out of body experience. And I'm like, Tim, you're not supposed to be saying it, but there's no going back now. And it's just happening. We're in this reactive state, and that's what we're placed in. And so the first trick when we're thrown into this zone of disruption, the first trick to be able to just get our bearings is to focus on and making sure that we're really focusing on our heart, mind, body, and spirit. And what worked before the crisis change might not work now. Because what you did to keep those things up before is what kept you up when you were in status quo. Does that make sense? So the further you go, or the deeper the crisis changes, the more you need to concentrate on heart, mind, body, spirit. Unfortunately, a lot of times what we do, because we have a servant's heart, is we put ourselves last. And so then we put ourselves in this perpetual burnout, and we don't know how to get out. And so what I'd like to do is show you the 4 dimensions of renewal to just take a look at and think about how can you take care of your heart, mind, here's the heart, body, mind, and spirit. And here's some ideas, because when we feel like that, when we feel loved and we feel like we love the love for other people, the ones we care about, it feels good. When we feel like we're alive, yeah, I feel alive. That feels good. When we feel like we're learning and we're taking on challenges and we're growing, that feels good. When we feel like we're making a difference, that feels good. So I want you to think about these things and to make a whole you. And I'm going to throw out some ideas, and I'm not, I want us to look at this not in well, that's not what I don't do that. That's fine. Let's not put ourselves in nope mode. You know what nope mode is? Where it's no matter, you're looking for the nope, 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 nope. That's not me. Everything's gone. But let's put ourselves in yep mode. Maybe this might remind me, sleep 8 hours each night. I'll be good if I sleep 6. I'm actually good on 6 hours. I don't know if I ever can sleep 8. And that's fine. What fits you, but how could you take care of your heart, mind, body, and soul each and every day? This isn't a once a month thing. What are some things you can do to take care of yourself every day? And this is what we call the personal private victory. I'm going to give you an example, something I did. I learned, and I do still, is what I do is I used to have my heart, I got to run 3 miles and I got to do this thing. And it took a lot of time. And sometimes something can take a lot of time, but I learned, I call it my protein bar, heart, mind, body, spirit, to start the day. And the way I do that is, I'm not telling you to do this, I'm just throwing an example out. What I do is I'll go and I'll run a mile, and it takes about 10 minutes to go through that process. And so I'll go out in the morning, I'll wake up 10 minutes earlier, and I go out and I'll run around my block. And as I'm running, I got my body taken care of. As I'm running around the block, I'm thinking to myself, okay, Tim, what are you going to do today? And I go back to, I have my own little purpose statement, my own mission statement. And for me, it's love, learn, encourage, inspire, see goodness, and spread goodness. And I say, okay, Tim, and I look at my roles. I'm a husband, I'm a father, and I'm a facilitator and education coach. So how are you going to love, learn, encourage, inspire, and see goodness and spread goodness with your wife? What are you going to do today to make sure that she feels loved, that she feels encouraged, that how are you going to see the good? How are you going to make that connection? Okay, Tim, how are you going to do that with your kids? Okay, Tim, how are you going to do that with those that you work with? Do you see where I'm going with this? So with that, I'm reflecting and I'm thinking about the relationships that I want to have. And then I'm thinking about my day and the impact I want to make. There goes my spirit. Do you see where we're going with this? By the time I get done, and at the right before going into the house, now I can play my favorite song because I like music, and so I might play "Eye of the Tiger," and it's like, dun, 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 dun. Yeah, baby, I'm ready, and I'm good to go. I'm good to start the day. I found that when I do that, starting my day, it starts it off on the right foot. Whereas if I try to get 10 more minutes of sleep or 15 more minutes of sleep, it doesn't do anything like starting my day, having already taken care of heart, mind, body, and spirit to get going. Now, throughout the day, of course, I'm going to be doing things to take care of those relationships, to take care of my body, to take care of my mind, and make sure I'm making that contribution. But that's a great start to my day. So what I like to do is I like to just have you reflect on a scale of 1 to 10, thinking about the last 7 days. How well have you taken care of your body? The last 7 days, this is a reflection. You don't need to say anything, or no chat right now. You can chat, but no need to put it out there. In the last 7 days, how well have you taken care of your heart? And when you see this, I want you to think about not just feel loved, but made someone feel loved. Feel accepted, but made someone feel accepted. Feel self-worth, made someone feel their self-worth. Because these things actually work both ways. Last 7 days, how well have you taken care of your mind? In the last 7 days, how well have you taken care of your spirit? I'm wondering if we could get someone to read this quote up on the screen out loud.
I'll do it. The single most powerful investment we can ever make in life is investment in ourselves, in the only instrument we have with which to deal with life and to contribute. Stephen Covey.
Powerful investment we can make. You can't make a difference if you can't function, right? If you're burned out, you cannot make the impact you're meant to make. And I've been there. I was like, I've got 5 kids, and I blame it all on my wife because she's such an amazing mom, and I blame it on them because they're such amazing kids. But there have been times where I was like, this isn't what parenting was supposed to be like. I'm burned out, right? Am I the only one that's ever felt that way? I don't know if any of you are parents or you just everything was hunky dory and great. But for me, I was like, oh my gosh. When I'm burned out, and I noticed that when I'm not taking care of my heart, mind, body, spirit, you know who gets the worst of me? My family. Because by the time I get home and interact with them, I'm done. And I'm not my best self. And I reflect and I say, what happened? That's not what I wanted. That's not the kind of teacher I wanted to be. That's not the kind of leader I wanted to be. That's not the kind of parent. That's not the kind of spouse I wanted to be. What happened? Again, a lot of times what you're going to find is when you're stressed out, you will find you can reflect back and say, oh man, how have I taken care of my heart? No, I've been neglecting relationships. How have I been taking care of my mind? I haven't. I've just been going. How have I taken care of my body? I've been skipping that. And taking care of my body isn't eating ice cream, a pint of ice cream every night, which I did for a long time. But someone told me that wasn't it. And it wasn't. I was definitely getting in a shape. It was just not the shape I want it to be. and then spirit, I just cannot, you forget your contribution because you're burned out. So I'd like to, if we could, just take a moment and think about what's one thing that you can start, stop, or continue to take care of your heart, those relationships. What's one thing you can start, stop, or continue to take care of your body, your mind, and your spirit? I'm wondering if in the chat box, you don't have to write everything, but maybe try what's one thing that you want to start or continue. And it can be in any of those categories. But what's one thing you want to start or continue? And what I suggest is really look at things that you can do that are a short period of time. Because it's real easy for me to say, oh, I'm going to get a massage once a month. Oh, great. That takes care of me one day a month. But that massage isn't going to take care of me the next day. Does that make sense? And so if we can look for little things that we can do, maybe I'll read a little bit of my devotional book and whatever, however you want to do to take care. I love it. Stop pressing snooze on my alarms. Oh yeah, each day I can have with each one of my kids. Ooh, love it. Thank you. Thank you. I love these suggestions and these things that you do to take care of yourself. Keep them coming. Okay. And by the way, can I say something like in the chat box? Please don't think that you can only put something in the chat box that is something I ask about. If something comes up and you guys are having a chat box conversation and it's kind of ish on what we're talking about, then you do that. Whatever speaks to you. Does that make sense? So if something speaks to you and nobody said, put this in the chat, don't think that you got to wait for me to say, put something in the chat. If something speaks to you, just write it like, oh my gosh, this, that. Oh, I got to do this. I got to do that or whatever. You just use that chat box freely. Just don't expect me to read them all because I am not a multitasker. But I typically need the chat box so that I can like process things. So I'd like for you to think about, what is the impact of not prioritizing our own wellness? If we don't prioritize our wellness, what would the impact be? If I continue to neglect my wellness, neglect my relationships, neglect my mind, neglect my body, neglect my purpose and the contribution I want to make, what would happen? Go ahead and put that in the chat box. What do you think might happen? What are some things that might happen if we neglect those things? So we're there now. Zone of disruption, right? We know that when we get thrown in that zone of disruption, are you freaking kidding me? The state put out another regulation. And they threw money at it. But everybody's got to stand on their head while they touch their nose and itch their ear with their elbow. I mean, that's okay. We're going to throw money at it. Good luck. Is sometimes how it feels. And we're in this zone of disruption, but hey, now we get in that burnout, but we're like, you know what? We're going to pull ourselves out because we're taking care of heart, mind, body, spirit so that we can handle this. But we're still in that zone of disruption. Okay. But in that zone of disruption, also want to make you aware of your feelings. And when other people are in that zone of disruption, that reactive state that you're in and this is where we have that fight, flight, or freeze that will happen. It's a chemical reaction in our body that happens when our body feels like it's in emergency state. Does that make sense? How that works? And you guys are pretty, I think you guys are familiar with fight, flight, or freeze. But what I'd like to do is get us familiar with kind of like the science in a fun little way of like what's happening in our brain when we get into fight, flight, or freeze, and how our brain is responding. And so I'm going to use our neuroscientist, who is a total hoot, to explain those parts of our brain. And I think she does a fantastic job.
Hi, I'm Dr. Eve. I'm a cognitive neuroscientist, which is just a fancy way of saying I study the brain to understand human behavior. I've been pretty stressed lately. Unfortunately, my usual self-care hasn't been helping. Some things made me feel better for a while, but eventually the calm faded and the stress returned. Unfortunately, most of my self-care ideas were just temporary fixes. Except the tattoo. This one's real permanent.
And now I can't get this guy Brian to stop sending me flowers.
So when I sprained my ankle doing goat yoga, I decided to turn to science to see what was really going on in my brain. There are 3 networks in our Brian. I've got to stop doing that. There are 3 networks in our brain that are responsible for our well-being. First is the alarmist. She's right here in the amygdala. This is the network we talk about when we say fight, flight, or freeze. Her job is to keep us safe. When she senses a threat, she sends out an alarm, so the rest of the body that doesn't want to die can respond. What? Then there's the leader. The leader's job is to listen to all the messages around her and make decisions she thinks will help us reach her goals. She's here in the prefrontal cortex. But sometimes the leader gets overloaded with messages from the alarmist, and it makes her less effective.
Yes. No.
The third part of our brain that helps us regulate wellness is the narrator. The narrator is in charge of helping us find purpose and make meaning of our lives. She's constantly updating our story and sharing the latest revisions with the leader. When these 3 brain networks communicate properly with each other, we're able to handle stress with nothing more than a deep breath.
Okay, a piece of chocolate cake.
Threat detected.
If we're constantly stressed out, the leader loses her ability to calm the alarmist.
Threat detected!
With a weak leader, the narrator now starts paying a little too much attention to the alarmist. The result? We live with a constant chatter of an untrue story of who we are. And if it goes on long enough, we actually start to believe it. Sound familiar? The story in my head has been stressing me out and making it hard for me to trust other people or even myself. Once we know about these 3 competing parts of our brain, we're empowered to see our lives and our thoughts in a way that makes more sense.
I want to just like open that up. Like, what are some things that maybe spoke to you? What are some things that you noticed or that spoke to you, with the kind of explanation on those competing forces that can happen in our brain, where they can cooperate and they can also compete? Have any of you felt that way at all over the last couple of years? Those feelings foreign, or were those pretty on? Yes, for sure. Last couple of years have had some stressful times. Yeah. Stephanie, thank you for being real. Stuck in a cycle and allow one disruption to feed the next. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, something small that shouldn't be a big deal, all of a sudden flies you through the roof. Or maybe that's just me. Like I said, I splash in puddles. So Yeah. Now, what happens is I want to show is the some behaviors that happen when we're in a fight mode, because we react to different situations in different ways. Okay. And there isn't one way that we actually all react. Like all of us have been in freeze mode, all of us have been in fight mode, and all of us have been in flight mode. Okay. There are some times that maybe with certain people, we react a certain way. I noticed that with my kids, I can get into fight mode real quick. Not like I'm fighting them, but my temper can be raised with my kids, right? But I noticed that with my boss, magically that fight mode doesn't pop up like it does with my kids. Maybe the freeze or the flight mode, it's like, oh, there you go. Okay, we'll go somewhere else if you're not feeling comfortable with them. Do you see where I'm going with that? So different people, our bodies learn how to react to it, but no matter what, there's a reaction. So I'd like to show you some reactions that we don't always recognize as being indicators that one, we might be approaching that point of no return of the fight mode or the flight mode or the freeze mode. And so I'm going to put up this next slide. Here are examples of what might be some behaviors you might have when you're in fight mode. And these would be before you get to the point of no return. But if you see this happening, that's an indicator. It's like, uh-oh, it's starting to happen. I'm wondering if in the chat, you could use the chat to if there's something that pops out, she's like, "Ooh, I never thought of that being a part of it." Or now, when you see, then go ahead and feel free to write in the chat your thoughts of what you see. Like for me, I never thought of blaming others would be an example of being in fight mode. One thing with students, someone that's subordinate to you, you might find them with these behaviors. Does that make sense? It doesn't necessarily need to be a student. It just would be someone that's subordinate to your role. So now I'm going to go to some examples of flight. Are there any of these behaviors that kind of like, oh, I did not think that would be a part of flight? Thank you, Stephanie, for sharing that. Acting silly from high school boys or the class clown effect. Yeah. Overthinking. Yeah. Overworking. I didn't think overworking and perfection was it, but then it like hit me. There are times where, because like I said, my wife's amazing. And for me, I pretty much know that whatever comes like to my head, the first thing that comes to my head is probably what I'm not supposed to do. Because I got a lot of good non-examples in my head, in my experience. And so I can recall there were times where I'd be in my home office and I'm done with work and I could hear my kids on the other side of that door. And I'm thinking, I probably should do something with them, but I don't know what to do. Like, I know I'm supposed to do something with them, but like, what? I bet you I could probably work on that project that I've been meaning to get to. Yeah, that's what I'll do. And I comfortably keep myself in my office. Guilty. And now we go to the freeze. We've all felt fight, flight, and freeze. And a lot of times say, oh, fight, flight, or freeze, but we don't know what we're wanting to feel. We know we don't want to feel that, but we don't even know what are we supposed to feel? And so, and that's where we take and we go, okay, what if we felt focus? And that's a funny for me because I'm like super ADHD and a very neurodiverse brain. But this is that balanced brain focus. And when we're focused, what happens is instead of being reactive, something happens and then we just or reactive without thinking. When we have focus, we create this pause. It's like, okay, I'm going to pause. And then we respond. We decide how we're going to respond. This is how you know that you're in focus. Here are some behaviors of us or indicators that we're in focus. So I'd like to share with you, I love Eve. Eve's so awesome. Do you guys like Eve? Is she like a character? I just love her. Okay. And she really is like a neuroscientist. She's amazing. And she's actually has a personality, which is awesome. But I'd like to show you a technique that you can use using the neuroscience to be able to take yourself out of that fight, flight, or freeze. Because there's something about that fight, flight, or freeze that's the same for every single one of them. And what's the same for every single one of them for fight, flight, or freeze is that you start to lose feeling in your body. That's why I call it an out-of-body experience. When you're yelling, it's like, that's not me. Oh my gosh, it's almost like I don't even know what's happening. But I know I'm in trouble after this because I said the wrong thing and it was not good. I remember as a teacher, there were times, maybe it was just me. I was like, I'm so glad there aren't any cameras in this room right now because I know I should not have responded in that way. But it's a good learning experience, right? The flight, we see someone that maybe you had a confrontation with before and you see them and they don't see you, you're like, and you start feeling that numbness as you're like, oh my gosh, hopefully they didn't see me, quick, duck. For that flight, and then freeze all out of the blue. You're not doing, hey, do you know what the sharpener? Oh my gosh, get off my back. You're just like, okay. And yeah, but every single one, you start to lose feeling. And it's the hormones, the chemical that your body's putting out to deal with emergencies. And so we're going to talk about, okay, how do we counter it so that we don't we start feeling like we're getting into that place where we're losing control. How do we counter that so we don't lose control?
Oh, this puppy's dressed like a unicorn. A puppicorn? A unihound? Oh.
What was I doing? That's right. Just getting some relief from the stress cycle. Remember that old thing? Oh boy. Look at my brain. The alarmist is trying to be in charge, but not really succeeding. The leader looks overwhelmed, waiting for things to settle back down.
And me? Well, I'm in denial, which is way better than sorting out the dumpster fire in my head. This emotional roller coaster won't last long. The fire will go out by itself, probably.
Oh, look, another puppy. This one's in a reindeer costume.
Right, we should be talking about science.
When the inner narrator in our brain gets out of balance, the alarmists can tend to make the smallest things into total emergencies.
This is not a puppy. This is a trigger.
Okay, no more denial and negative self-talk. The reason these don't work is because they don't address real imbalance. They don't get the leader back in charge. But there is something that does work. Well, there's 3 somethings. Notice, name, think. N-N-T. No, na. I'll keep working on that. Let's start with notice. It's simple. Just pause for a few seconds and notice what's happening in your body. When we choose to simply notice what's going on in our body, we begin to engage the leader back into its intended role, leading. The leader can now gather in all the details of the situation. And help us make good decisions. Don't judge it, just notice it. Closer? Next, we name the emotion. Simply put a name to what we're feeling. Here's some words you might want to try. Words like angry, sad, lonely. Help with that! Oh, Brian. The more specific your emotional vocabulary, the better your ability to self-regulate. So hit the books. Oh, cantankerous. I thought that was a dinosaur. Can you imagine a puppy in a dinosaur costume? Finally, think. This is where we ask ourselves, why? Why am I feeling this way? What are my feelings and emotions trying to tell me? Thinking brings the narrator and leader together as they question the stories the alarmist was telling all along. The narrator loves this because now she can tell a more accurate story about herself. Look, I get it. Notice, name, think. Seems so simple, but the science that pushed me to try this is like, whoa. I'm already feeling more in control of my life because I am. Try it next time you're stressed. You'll actually start to feel way more balanced because you will be. In some ways, it's even better than puppies.
Okay, so notice, name, think. And the idea here is, this is the idea, and I'll throw an example out. Because you're in that, I love, Ron, you said, reminds me of what I've learned in the beginning steps of meditation. Yeah. A lot of times what you'll notice here, this right here, you'll notice that there are other things that people will do, but so this is the neuroscience behind that. Does that make sense? That creates what is trying to be created or to get to that place. And so this isn't, I know there's like mindfulness and there's yoga and there's meditation but this right here isn't labeled. It's the neuroscience that those things use. And people will use what they would like. But the idea here is that because your body, when you're in fight, flight, or freeze, is starting to lose feeling, you're disconnecting that control. And so you want to put it back into control. Take it away from that emotional state and put it back into control. And the way you do that is first notice. And what I like to suggest is notice on the outside can be easier sometimes than on the inside. And so my go-to, and I'm not telling you to do this, this is just Tim, is wiggle my toes. Something's happening and I start feeling that happen. I'm like, wiggle your toes, Tim. wiggle your toes. I can feel my toes. Okay. Now I'm going to go up and see what am I feeling? Okay. I'm feeling the pant on the top of my thigh right by my knee. And what do I feel as I come up? Okay, I'm feeling my belt. I'm feeling my bracelets on each of my wrists. I'm feeling the pressure of my 3 fingers touching on my palm. I'm feeling, and now what I'm doing is I'm being very conscious of aware, bringing that feeling back. Does that make sense how that works? And so now that I go there, now I'm going to go inside. How am I feeling inside right now? I'm noticing that I'm feeling a little bit of energy in my chest. I'm noticing that my breath's a little bit different. It's almost shallow with this situation. And now I'm going to label it. How am I feeling right now? What am I going to label this? And there's like simple labeling that's so simple, but I like, I'm going to call this disappointment. I'm feeling disappointed right now. And I had a friend of mine I was talking to, and I was frustrated, and she did this amazing thing to me. That I'll throw out to you. You could think about to use or not. But she was like, Tim, if what you're feeling right now was a color, what color would it be? And I stopped. I was like, color? Maybe a little bit of blue and red. And why? And well, blue because, and red because. But what it did is it turned my logical brain on. It turned my interpreting brain, the narrator, on as well. Does that make sense where we're going with this? And so I really want to make sure I'm bringing that feeling back. So I notice how I'm feeling. Now I'm going to label it. And so then, well, once it's labeled, we're going to go to the think. And I said, okay, what am I really reacting to? And what have you ever had that? Or was like, oh my gosh, it's like you guys are trying to piss me off. It's like you're trying to make me mad. What is going on? And that's not the case. When we get into those modes, we think the world sometimes is against us. And we'll create stories and we'll actually react to the story in our head. I just know she hates me. And so I might be snarky, not because she was snarky to me, because I just know she hates me. And she did nothing but smile at me because I was in a different state where I wasn't aware. So I'm wondering if we could, in the chat, what are some things that speak to you that maybe you might be able to do the next time you start feeling that that start to come up? How could you use that notice, name, and think to try to bring yourself back into a safer place where you can think clearly? Let's go ahead and use the chat room. What are some thoughts that you have about this? Thank you, Stephanie, for sharing that. And I'm going to show another thing when we're dealing with situations, because we're going to deal with people that might be hot. We might deal with a hot parent. We might deal with a hot student that's in this state. And so something that might help us not go into the state, because it's very easy where if you're in that state and you come to me, I empathically will feel what you feel. And that mirroring is very easy. And that we don't necessarily want to mirror that. the negative things, but sometimes it happens. Have you had that where someone comes at you with attitude and all of a sudden you've got nice attitude coming right back at them? And it's just automatic. Maybe instead of going back at them, maybe we say, let's notice them. What if we observed their state rather than absorbed their state? Say, that looks like a flight behavior. I wonder what they're feeling right now. Let's call that frustrated. How might that help if we observe rather than absorb the behavior? When someone is in that fight flight, how might that help the situation? What are your thoughts? Go ahead and put that in the chat. Leilani, I like that comment. I noticed the notice with your toes. Yeah. Hello, self. I had a fun experience with that. Thank you, Roman, for that feedback. So this is a technique we can use however you like, just to keep yourself grounded. When you start feeling like you're getting riled, let's make sure we're taking care of our heart, mind, body, spirit. And if you're taking care of your heart, mind, body, spirit, you'll find it's a lot harder for you to lose control. When you take care of your relationships are all intact and everything's good there, your body, you feel good physically, you feel like you're progressing and you're growing and you got this and you're making a contribution. Johnny can throw a chair across the room and you're like, that's all right, Johnny. Johnny's having a bed. Come on, Johnny, let's go. We got this and we're fine. Right? But when we're not taking care of our heart, mind, body, spirit, Susan breaks her pencil. You did it on purpose. She's just trying to push my buttons. And it really has nothing to do with Susan. It has to do with me not taking care of my heart, mind, body, spirit, which is putting me in that reactive state. So now we're going to go back to, we're going right back to this zone of this crisis cycle here. We have the zone of status quo, zone of disruption. In that zone of disruption, we get put in burnout mode. I'm in burnout mode. I want to get out of that burnout mode. The first thing, I'm taking care of heart, mind, body, spirit. I'm making sure that if I'm feeling that emergency mode and those chemicals are hitting my brain and my body, that I'm going to really focus on getting that feeling back and noticing that feeling so that I can be in control of myself. But that's still not going to get us out of that zone of disruption. If that's all I do, I'm still going to be in this disgusting zone. And I say disgusting, not because we shouldn't be there. We should. That's natural. It's just not where I want to camp out. I don't want to stay there the rest of my life. I want to move on. And so what I'm going to do is the next thing we're going to do is we're going to use a tool, and this is called a circle of influence and circle of concern. So when I'm in this zone, I'm going to say, okay, because I'm taking care of my body, spirit, I can think clearly. And I'm going to say, okay, what is it that we have control over or influence over? What don't I have control or influence over? And I might make a list of the things I don't have control over. And this is where I'll tell you probably 99% of the time that you're stressed out, you're going to find that there are two things that are at play. One, you're not taking care of your heart, mind, body, and spirit. And two, you're hyper focusing on the things you have zero control over. And so what that does is it blinds you from being able to see any way out. And so the idea here is say, hey, you know what? I can't control that there's a variant, but what can I control? What is in my influence? These are the things I don't have influence over, but what do I have influence over? I can get a flat tire. Say, oh my gosh, I got a flat tire. Oh, the flat tire. There's a flat tire. Oh, why did I get a flat tire? I don't know why I got a flat tire. I changed those flat tires and a flat tire. And I'll lose sleep thinking about my tire is flat. And it can actually blind me. I don't know the solution to it because all I'm focusing is on the problem instead of thinking, okay, well, this is the problem. Okay, what's in my control? Well, I can't roll my car to the thing. So oh, I got a AAA card. Oh, I forgot about that card. I'll call AAA. I'll have them come and do their thing. And that's how we're going to solve it. So once we're focusing on the things we have control over, now we can do something. But we've got to decide where we want to get to. And this is kind of like begin with the end in mind. This is the see, do, get cycle. How you see things affects what and how you do things, which will then in turn affect what you get, the results you get. If I see things and say, oh my gosh, this is going to be a disaster, is that going to affect the effort I put into whatever I'm doing? Is that going to affect the result that I get? But I can also use this in the opposite, in reverse. I could say, okay, well, what is it that I want to get? And not just get, I have to be careful with the get, because sometimes we'll say what we want to get. Well, actually, there have been times where I've worked with educators where their paradigm was so focused on the negative that it was hard for them to even change their mindset. It's like, well, what do you want to get? I'll tell you what I don't want to get. What I don't want to get is, and it was a whole bunch of what I don't want to get. I'm like, okay, so then what is it that you want to get? And it was subconscious would always go to not what you want to get. And if we don't know what we want to get, it's hard to get that if we don't know what the specifics of. For example, I'm just going to throw an example out. I could say, it's real easy to say, I just want a good relationship. Great. That means nothing, because your idea of a great relationship and my idea of a great relationship might be completely different. Right? That is so abstract. So I said, okay, well, we want a good relationship. Well, what would a good relationship look like? What would your significant other look like that would be evidence to you that you're in a good relationship? What would you look like that would be evidence to you that you're in a good relationship? Great. What would it sound like? What are some things that would come out of your significant other's mouth that would be evidence to you that we're in a good relationship? What are some, in quotations, phrases and things that would come out of your mouth that, hey, if I were saying these things on a regular basis, that would be evidence that I would be in a good relationship? What would it look like? What would it sound like? What would it feel like? What would your significant other feel like? If my significant other felt like this, that would be evidence that we're in a good relationship. What would I feel like? What if I felt like this? That would be evidence I'm in a good relationship. Now we know what we're trying to get. Now we can be specific. And now that we can be specific, we can go to the do. And the do isn't, well, my significant other better do this, 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 this if they're going to create. I don't have control over my significant other. I do have control over myself. And so I asked myself, well, Tim, what's one thing you can do? What's one simple thing you can do today that will get you closer to that good relationship that you really want to get? What's one thing you could do tomorrow, next week, in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks? Rome wasn't built in a day, and a good relationship won't be built in a day either. And but if I focus on what I can focus on and not put the onus on someone else or something else, I now have control and more control over the results that I get. But now I've got to also look at my paradigm. Do I even think that I could have a good relationship? Because if I'm starting it where it's like, shh, good relationship, I'll never have a good relationship. I know someone on a friend, like a parent on Facebook from a former student, and every 6 months, I see this on Facebook. All men are pigs, the good ones are taken. And when she gets in a relationship, what do you think? Do you think that affects how and what she does in that relationship? Right? And do you think it affects the results she gets? Right? Because if she's in that relationship, what's she thinking? You're a pig and the good ones are taken, so you must not be a good one. And she will never have a good relationship, not because it's not possible, but because her mindset is preventing her from having that. And we can use that for anything. And so let's use that for whatever it is, the situation we are that's in our disruption. Hey, what do you want to get? Don't tell me what's impossible. Tell me what you want to get. Don't tell me what you don't have now. Tell me what you want to get. I want a class that, a bimodal class that can work online and can work in person. I want to be able to empower them and to, whatever it is that you're wanting, and whatever the crisis change. Okay, what do I want to get? Great. That right there is that zone of innovation. Okay, what do I need to do to get that? There's the zone of adoption. How do I need to see things? Do you see how that works? But what I'm going to do is I want to show you like reality, that zone of adoption. That line right there is way too pretty. Can we be real? Is this like more what it's like for you guys too? Is this, or this just me? Because I can like, oh, that's what I want to get. And then I'll like have a really good day one day and then I'll fail hardcore the next day. Or it might, and it's a mess. And that's okay. As long as you know what you want to get and your target, you will more likely, and you will get extremely close to it, or you might even shoot further, higher than that. But if you don't even have a target, then you're just wandering all over the place and you're going to find yourself in the zone of disruption for the rest of your life. And you're like, I don't know, I used to want to be an educator, and then something just died. It didn't die. We lost our vision. We stopped taking care of ourselves. We burned out. And so I'd like for you just to think to yourself right now, and you don't have to put this down. I just like for you to think to yourself, well, where are you currently? Is that where you want to be? What might be something you could do? Either start, stop, or continue that could take you wherever it is that you want to be, or take you to that next step. Here, I'd like to show a video that talks about change.
No matter who you are, no matter what you do for a living, no matter where you live, no matter what you believe, change is happening all around you. Change is at the heart of what kind of life you will lead. Your ability to be happy is directly tied to your ability to change. Change is the moment when you grow and improve. It's the moment when you take a step forward and get something better. Here's the secret. Change isn't about getting lucky or waiting for the right thing to come along or running away from changes that you think are bad. Change is actually about the decisions that you make, how you respond to the changes you are presented with. And it doesn't mean change is easy. Some changes are truly challenging. But for all change, it's your ability to choose what you will do that matters. And when you stop seeing change as something happening to you and start seeing it as an opportunity, the power shifts. You go from being a victim to being the one in control. You may not be able to change everything, but you can change yourself. And that will be enough. In a world where change is coming faster and faster, your ability to change will matter more and more. In the end, none of us will escape seeing changes we wish would never have happened. But it's not the change that will matter. It's what the change will let you choose. And that will make all the difference.
I wonder if we can take some time in either the chat box or unmute yourself. What are some things that spoke to you so far? While you're doing that, I'm going to move forward, and feel free to have conversations in the chat box. Next, I want to just go to where we talk about primary and secondary stress. And when we're looking at primary and secondary stress, the reason why it's so important that we are whole is because our stress will actually, the students that we work with, they'll feel our stress, right? Just like your student comes in and they're stressed, does that affect you? Right? And if we're not careful, we could actually start feeding each other until we put ourselves in this grand whirlwind. And so what if when we're working with our students and we're working within our teams, that we create an environment that takes care of their heart, their body, their mind, and their spirit. So that even if they're not getting that at home, they're getting it in the environment that we provide them. So that they can feel peace and they can be able to function and move themselves through that crisis change cycle. Would it be fair to say if I were a student that thought I understood the math and then I got my test back and all of them were wrong, that it would put me in a zone of disruption? Would that be fair? Our students, some of our students have hit this zone of disruption or in that zone of disruption on a daily basis, not just with life at home, but also with academic expectations at school. Not saying that we don't have academic expectations, but that we be aware of where they might be. So what if knowing that, was that, you know what, zone of disruption. And that's why I created an environment, heart, mind, body, spirit, baby. That way, and what if my students knew this? Oh, you know what? That's zone of disruption. That's okay. What do you want to get? Oh, you want to understand the math? Okay, great. What would that look like? What would that sound like? What would it feel like? Great. So what do we need to do to get that? It's all right. That this is where you got it, right? This is where it's at. That's okay. Well, what do we have control over? We have control over that. What do we have control over? What if we taught them to be able to get through? And we model it ourselves and we teach them. The last thing I like to show is teaching hope. And this will be our last piece that we'll look at. It's impossible to feel depressed and hopeful at the same time. Did you know that? Your brain, they did a little, that brain thing, those little things they put on your brain to like see how it fires, and your brain cannot fire hope and depressed at the same time. And so one of the best ways to counter hopelessness, depression, or helplessness is by teaching hope. And there are three simple ways to do it. One is goal setting. And what you'll notice is what this is going to do is actually going to put you into those behaviors that we looked at that equal focus. So goal setting, it doesn't have to be a big goal. It just has to be something we're looking forward to that we want to achieve in the future. Growth. Oh, you got a 12%? Oh, let's see if we get a 15% next week. See how it's doable? You got a 15? Let's see if we can get a 20 next week. 25, let's see if we could do a 30. Hey guys, let's make a goal that everyone wears yellow on Thursday. Let's see if we get it. Let's see how many of us get yellow on Thursday. It has, do you see this goal? But just having that goal, it's something you're looking forward to. It's inducing hope. Planning. Have you noticed? Did you notice before the break? In December, the beginning of December, something would happen. You're like, that's all right. Christmas break in 8 days. That's all right. 4 more days, baby. That's all right. 4 more days. Right? When you have something to look forward to, it helps you get through hard times. But why have things to look forward to that are so far away? What if we put things to look forward to sooner? Hey guys, we got crazy something going next Friday. Next Friday. Oh my gosh, guys, I'm going to do something crazy Friday. You guys better be here. I'm going to see if you notice something different is going to be happening. See if you notice. Just something small like that gives them something to look forward to. Helps them get through hard times or times of change. And then the last thing is agency. And it's probably one of the most important things. This is a fancy science word for choice. When we feel like we have choices, now we feel like we're more in control in the situation, which makes us feel safer. And so what I throw out to you is to think about, how can you give the students you work with choices? And when I say choices, I don't mean like free-for-all choices. I mean, say, hey guys, what do you think? Just do the odd problems, or should we do the first 10? I don't know. What do you think? Hey, should we do 3 examples or should we do 2? Was that enough? What do you think? Anytime I say, what do you think? Or I have them making a decision, I'm pulling them out of do what you're told mode and putting them into ownership mode. And I'm also giving them choice. Hey, should we do it with the red on this day or the red on that day? Remember, I'm not going to tell them should we or ask them about something that I'm not willing to do, right? But just by giving them choice helps them feel more in control, and feeling more in control helps them feel less helpless and more helpful. Let's just say that. So with that, I'm wondering if you could, I'm gonna that will be where we'll end. But I'd like to, in the chat box, there's a survey. I have a survey monkey. If you could fill that out and help me know how your experience was and what spoke to you. about this experience. And again, my end in mind for you is that I could give you something that could give you peace and can help you as you move forward through this, through the rest of this school year. So thank you so much for your time.
Tim, thank you. And gosh, so much good stuff that you shared with us. Round of applause for Tim. This is when I was teaching on Zoom every day, this was the way that I would teach my students to give applause. So applause to you, Tim. Thank you so much. Tim, really quickly, if they want to learn more, they want to get in contact with you, they want to bring this back to their school or to their students or their faculty and staff, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you, Tim?
Oh, that's a good question. Oh, I wasn't even ready for that because I wasn't even thinking about me. I was just thinking about you. So can I give you there's probably a website. I could probably give you my
or even if you just want to throw your email address in the chat.
Okay, yeah, because you know what, in that Survey Monkey, if you just put in the comments your contact information, then I can make sure that you're able to be contacted. Let's do that in the Survey Monkey link. Does that work?
Yeah, I think that works great.
Okay.
And then my next question was, do you have any other, for the goal setting, planning agency, or any of the things that we learned about tonight, additional resources to use with our students? Or is there a place that we could go if we're like, hey, we want to, are there little, more nuggets of goodness that
That's a great question. Ron, would it be okay if I put something together and sent it to you? Would you be able to distribute that then to the team?
Absolutely. So what I will do to everyone who is here, and then for the folks who couldn't make it here, who maybe had to log off a little bit early, I will go ahead. I have email addresses for everyone who attended tonight, who got my reminder email about 25 minutes before. Okay, good. So we know that it's working. So I'll just push that email out, and I'll just kind of with the follow-up information that you share with me, Tim.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, Tim, thank you. And folks, really quickly before you go, I have just a couple things. And Stephanie, I see your question, so I'm gonna get to your question in just a moment. A couple of links to share with you. Those are in the chat. And so just a quick plug here, because we are, there we go. We are getting closer to our 2022 CATA convention. We're back in person again, very excited. CATA Tours is a theme for CATA 2022. You'll notice that the registration price goes up. I think it's this Friday. And so you want to register sooner rather than later. And so take advantage of that. We have, I think about 700, Bonnie, you would know the numbers as well, about 700 registered so far. So we're ready to rock and roll, ready to party on that. The next thing I wanted to share with you is, of course, in addition to our in-person event, just like you attended this evening, we also have a couple of other events on the schedule. Next thing, you can join us next Monday for It's a New Year, Keep Going. We're going to be hearing from students. I always love hearing from students. So you're going to be hearing from student leaders. So that's on the cata1.org/virtual events. And then also our Jedi Book Club, Jedi Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. And one of the best books that I have read in a long time, How the Word is Passed by Clint Smith. Such a powerful book. So Bonnie has it right there. She's got to hold it in front of your face. There you go. Yeah, we can see it now. An amazing book. And I would show you my copy, but mine is on it's on Audible. It's my audio book. Anyway, all of these online events are free to you. And so we welcome you to join us for those. And so once again, if you have any questions, you can stick around. And Stephanie, I want to hear from you. But if you need to get going, I know it's 8:34 now. I want to respect your time. So once again, big thank you to Tim Torres. Thank you for being here, Tim. We appreciate you. And folks, we'll look forward to seeing you at our next virtual event or our next in-person event. Thanks so much. Take care.